Man like Mark Sullivan, the warrior self. Stay tuned for the thrilling episode. Woo!
A positive mental attitude can clear away all obstacles which stand between you and your major purpose in life.
This is the Snowboard Project featuring Mark Sullivan and the Beat. The Snowboard Project. The Snowboard Project. The Snowboard Project.
Welcome back to the Snowboard Project. I'm Mark Sullivan.
Welcome back. I am the Beeve.
Hi, Beeve. Good morning. Yeah, so this is, what day is today, Beeve?
Oh, today is October the
8th.
8th.
October 8th, 2018.
It's hard remembering what day it is now that we're like, what?
I mean, honestly,
deep in the 20s now.
I know we do so much of this. It's just like, is it Tuesday? Is it Monday? Is it the 8th? Is it the 24th? I don't even know anymore.
Are you showing signs of fatigue, Sully?
No, I love this, actually. I really am enjoying doing the Snowboard Project. And the thing is, I keep learning more and more about the sport of snowboarding by tapping into some of these people who have really contributed part of their lives to the sport.
I mean, that's like part of it, right? That's the whole reason we want to do this, is to learn more. What
they can learn, and our listeners can learn right along with us, which is really cool as well. We share that knowledge.
Right. Now, this week, you were going across an Instagram feed and you found someone that was showing their appreciation. They wrote us part of a song, right?
Oh, you want to hear the song that was written?
Yeah.
Okay,
which is crazy. Like, in all our time, we've been doing this. It was really nice that somebody ended up writing a song for us. So, yeah. Oh, banjo?
Yeah, banjo.
What's up, y'all? Oh, hey. Hey there.
I just want to say thank you.
Hey, no problem.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being you.
Me?
Me? Beeve?
And all you do.
I know. We do a lot.
Thank you for participating in that on Instagram.
Hey, no problem. I'm glad you follow us too.
Yeah, well, thanks.
Oh my gosh.
Anyhow,
wow.
That was really nice. That was actually Ejak. Ejak wrote a song about us.
Shut up. Ejak did?
Yeah.
Dude, to us?
To us. To you, Beeve. I think he was writing to you, not to me. Yeah,
really?
You. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think you want to hear the song I wrote about you, though.
I didn't even know you were a songwriter.
Well, I am now. It was actually it's a rap, though. I got inspired by the Brushy rap last week, and so I wrote a rap about it.
Wait, you really wrote a rap?
No, I'm not going to do it now. I'll do it later.
No, I think
Anyhow, no. Let's go into Who's on Drugs, because it was like...
See, he didn't really write a rap. He's just... He wasn't going to do it. Now, see, I'm going to... Like, he just admitted it there.
No, I didn't. I actually did not write a rap. I was just giving you a hard time.
I was like, maybe he actually wrote a rap. Maybe that's what we have to do next year.
You got to give me a beat. If you could do a beatbox, I'll do a rap.
Maybe next week we need to write songs to each other and we can have one of those moments.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay,
so Who's on Drugs?
Yeah, Who's on Drugs?
It's Ejak.
Ejak.
Yeah, he's on drugs. So
clearly,
check out this clip.
Playing the banjo.
Yeah, he was playing the banjo.
Right.
He wrote us a song. Thank you, Ejak.
Okay.
That was very nice of you. Respect. Respect.
Okay, wait. Let's look at this clip really quick. Can you pull it up?
Okay,
and I'll try to explain this as graphically as possible.
Okay, let me pull up Ejak's clip. Let's pull this up here. Okay, check this out.
Okay.
I'm going to play the audio. This is kind of in slow-mo.
Okay, wait. Show it to me really quick. He approached a massive jump on a snowmobile, took off, and about halfway through realized he wasn't going to hit the landing, so he just ditches the snowmobile and drops like probably a good 80, 90 feet out of the sky, right? Just to complete flat.
Defeat.
Yeah, to feet in the powder. It's like, and
Master of miscalculation right there.
Doesn't really sink in terribly far. Like it looked like he tried to last ditch starfish it, but really had no.
Yeah, that's a pretty bad miscalculation. Looks like he hit a booter they had built for snowboarding on his sled.
Right.
Miscalculated the speed, threw the sled, went to flat, wadded up the sled, and probably wadded it up himself as well. Yeah, he threw the sled. So
now, Mark, I'm
an expert on wadding up sleds, by the way.
Yeah,
that's like my specialty.
Tell me about a moment that you wadded a sled up.
There's so many. I mean, I told that story in episode 1 where I totaled that sled with 6 kilometers.
Sure.
But, let's see. I've wadded up a few different times. Okay, so here's another story about wadding up a sled, right? So I was at Tailgate, Alaska, going up Demolition Hill. This is actually, I think maybe I gave the name Demolition. I named actually Demolition Hill because of people wadding up, including myself.
Right.
And so this guy, Gordy Johnson, he used to be a co-announcer with me at Grand Prix, other events.
Right.
And he's like, he came up to Tailgate. He was having a great time, but it was like the end of Tailgate. He's like, hey, man, can you just rip me up to this hill? And so I had Black Beauty number 2, I want to say. Black Beauty 2 was the name of the sled. I named my sleds.
Was that Skidoo?
Skidoo 700.
What year?
Oh, that was like a 2002, 2003.
Yeah.
2003 700
I liked
Skidoo.
Black Beauty 2.
Yeah, Black Beauty 2 was a good sled.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so I rip him up the hill, and he's doubling Alaskan style. And on the steepest part, his shoulder, he bounces forward, his shoulder hits the kill switch. Right? Yeah. And so the thing stops, and it takes me like good 2-3 seconds to figure out like why the hell did this thing just die on me here on the steepest part of the hill.
Right.
We actually start rolling backwards, right? And he's riding Alaskan like just hunched over the handlebars,
hugging the handlebars, and I'm standing behind him, so I can't really see the handlebars even because he's blocking my view. Right.
So we start going backwards, and I'm just like, ditch. And so he ditches off, I ditch off. There's no way to save the sled, so I go tumbling down, and then the snowmobile starts rolling backwards. It catches going backwards, and literally the snowmobile flies like 15 feet in the air, and it was like slow-mo, and it comes like flying out of the sky on the steepest part of Demolition Hill, and basically just tomahawks my knee. Just straight in the hood of the snowmobile goes straight into my knee. And
15 feet to your kneecap?
To my kneecap. I was just like, I'm never walking again. I'm never snowboarding again. And it was painful, by the way. Super painful, right? Immediately. I was just like, I'm screwed, right? The snowmobile just fell out of the sky onto my knee.
Oh.
Yeah. And so anyhow, I'm just like, and the whole, like everyone, of course, sees it from base camp.
Right.
Own your mistakes, I guess. I didn't have much choice in that situation. People come rushing up to my assistance. Thank you guys for coming to my assistance.
Right.
And I'm just there, just like, I am so screwed right now. So screwed. I'm never going to walk again. And then, you know, I'm just sitting there not moving for like, I don't know, 5 minutes. And then so I'm like, oh, it's starting to not be as like sharp pain. And so then like, so anyhow, 10 minutes later, I stand up and I walk away. I actually walked away from that. Literally 500-pound snowmobile fell out of the sky onto my knee and I walked away. I attribute that to like the soft snow, like the snowmobile must have just hammered my knee into the soft snow and not like shattered every patella, tibia, fibia, ball, femur.
Did the snowmobile go tumbling down the hill? And
yeah,
just
it did.
Itself?
It first hit my knee and then went tumbling down to the bottom of the hill.
All the way through all the whoops and everything.
No, it was like right in the steep section. It tumbled through the whole steep section though. But yeah, that was like there I go, like wrecking a sled.
Was that the death of Black Beauty 2?
No, Black Beauty 2 was fine.
Oh.
And my knee was fine, and so I feel pretty lucky about that.
Wow.
So anyhow, but I think maybe we should talk a little bit more about snowmobiles. Now that I've scared you properly with a snowmobile story, let me tell you that actually snowmobiles, I think, are now the best form of backcountry access. Right. And so I think that actually bang for the buck, I'd say that they're actually probably the cheapest way to get the most powder.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think it's, you know, if you've ridden a snowmobile for access, it's like a 70-mile-per-hour ski lift, you know?
Yeah, and it's really fun too, riding a sled in powder. But the thing is, there's a learning curve with snowmobiling. And granted, the brand new sleds, the learning curve is shorter. The chassis design has been improved like in the last, say, 20 years. Actually, we've seen a remarkable improvement in design.
But we've also found that is that remarkable improvement and that ability to learn these things quicker is also a danger because people get a confidence level that's...
Right. You can get in over your head pretty easily. So... You know, I would recommend anyone who wants to get into snowmobiling. I have a few tips here.
Okay. I want to hear your tips.
First of
I have
all,
a couple tips.
Well, first of all, buy a sled. Right? I mean, if you're renting sleds or whatever, then you're going to be like, you're going to be scared of it. And so I would
or if you're using your buddy's sled and you wreck it, that's like worst case scenario.
Yeah. And so I would recommend coming up with a budget of $3,000 to $5,000 for your first sled.
I would agree.
And so what you should do is definitely get one of these modern stand-up style chassis. Like I'd say like 06 or newer Skidoo would be like the Rev chassis or the XP, XM, I don't know. There's a bunch of chassis though that are like the stand-up style instead of the lawnmower style.
I had back in the day, I had an '08 Dragon.
How was that?
It was sick. That snowmobile was
that
awesome.
would be a good first sled, right?
Yeah, it was a good first sled. It was really heavy. It was a heavier sled. than what they
Yeah,
are now.
but I would recommend getting a sled that's like $3,000 to $5,000. That's not cheap, but then you can learn. And if you do make a mistake, it won't be like buying a $15,000 brand new sled.
Sure.
Right. And so then I would recommend also that, okay, so how you buy it, right? Here's how you find that proper $3,000 to $5,000 sled. So you basically, in Utah, you go to KSL. I recommend going to like a region that's going to have a ton of mountain sleds.
Right.
So like if you're like, I would look in a metro area, like in Vancouver, in Seattle, in maybe Portland, Salt Lake City, Reno.
Salt Lake is really the place, though.
Salt Lake, I'd say, is the place. You go to KSL.com, look in their sled thing. And so here's what I do. I always search for low miles because usually like what'll happen is a guy wants to buy a new sled. And so to justify it, he buys one for him and one for his wife. Basically matching sleds. And his buddy ends up riding. His wife will ride it sometimes too. But it's like a sled for him, but he had to like justify it by being like, oh, I got you a new sled, honey.
Right.
And so basically there's like the guy's sled has got 3,000 miles on it. It's been hammered on. And his wife's sled has got like 1,200 miles on it. Right. And it's like, 8-10 years old now. And so he's basically like, okay, I got to buy my wife a new sled because I need a new sled too.
Right.
And so they'll put it on KSL and, you get a low mile sled, which generally would mean that there's just going to be less maintenance involved. You're not going to have to replace your high faxes.
Right.
It's got, longer life on the rings left and on just the wear parts, the parts that are going to wear with age.
Right. And it just wasn't hammered through the whoops like the guy who was recklessly just pinning.
Yeah.
it.
And so I've actually bought a number of like quote unquote low miles sleds off of KSL. And I mean, every time I go to meet the guys, like, yeah, this was my wife's sled every time. Right. It's like a low mile sled that has a few years on it generally means a wife's sled. So buy a 10-year-old sled with like 1,200 miles on it. You'll get it for pennies on the dollar. And then you can afford to make mistakes on that snowmobile and learn.
Right.
Second tip.
Okay.
Second tip. So I would recommend actually like taking lessons. And so there's guys like Dan Adams.
Really?
Yeah, and like Jackson Hole, there's Dan Adams. In Colorado, there's a guy, Chris Barant. And you sign up for Barant.
You guys should all Google Chris Barant right now.
Yeah,
because that dude he's nasty.
Yeah. And so there's a bunch of guys who teach these like weekend clinics. So you show up for 2 days. Generally, actually, they'll demo you a sled. I would recommend like getting used to the sled a little bit, how to load, unload, how to ride around a little bit. You don't need much skill. But then I would recommend like signing up for one of these classes. They have demo sleds. You could actually fly into Colorado or into Jackson and take one of these weekend clinics. And basically you can skip like years of training just by taking one of these weekend clinics in 2 days.
I will say prior to going to Alaska, I had been on a snowmobile a handful of times, maybe 5 or 10 times. And we ended up in Alaska. And I mean, what was that, 2008 or so? Mm-hmm. I was pretty fearful of the snowmobile. I mean, like when you get in those situations, you're like, oh yeah, I've ridden a snowmobile, and then you look at having to ascend, 2,500 or 3,000 feet, and just the repercussions if you don't make it, or the sled goes all the way back down, or you go all the way back down.
Right. Okay. So Beav, I have a question for you. I keep telling these embarrassing stories about me snowmobiling.
Sure.
I've got other crashes too, actually. We could go on. This could be a regular segment, me crashing snowmobiles.
Sure.
So tell me about your biggest mistake and like the biggest amount, like the largest amount of joy or whatever, like the juxtaposition between something that was just like struck fear in your heart to something where you're like, I can't believe like this just happened to me.
Man. That's a really tough question. I don't know if I've been lucky enough to not really crash one into like a tree. I think that's like the biggest thing. You see someone like clip their front ski and just take it into a tree and just destroy the whole thing. I think my biggest mistake was I did have that '08 Dragon, which was my first sled. It was about $5,000, and I remember I was getting really confident on it and taking it up into these high kind of backcountry bowls in Idaho. And if you snowmobile in Idaho, you realize there's a lot of like situations where you just have to pin it and hold on and hope that you don't let go of the sled, because it's either going to end up in a ravine or in trees and stuff.
Right, a lot of ravines and trees.
Yeah, and I had gone up this thing, and I remember hearing something kind of funny in my engine, but I was just like pinning it anyway. And I came back down and I was like, hey, I just cut the trail in, and I went to flip my sled back around. I was with Wyatt Caldwell and a couple other people, and when I flipped my sled back around, I heard like a ting, another ting, and then my snowmobile turned off, and Wyatt was like, oh, whoa, I heard something funny, and I was like, oh, I don't, whatever, I'm sure it's fine. And I started the sled back up, and I tried to pin it out, and all of a sudden I just like shredded my whole engine.
Grenaded your engine.
Grenaded it just right there. And
you probably could have preempted that by stopping when you heard that first noise.
Yeah,
basically.
I think so. And what had happened was a rod broke in the engine and fell down in the,
Oops.
and
in
it
the crankcase, yeah.
clink, 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 and then Wyatt's like, turn it off. And,
Too
and
late.
my other biggest regret on that moment is not just basically siphoning some gas out and just burning it to the ground right there and collecting my insurance,
You shouldn't talk about insurance fraud, B. Come on now. We don't commit insurance fraud at the Snowboard Project. I don't anyway. Jeez.
You tow it back and you're like, well, it needs a new engine. There's $4,500. What's the greatest joy?
Yeah. Best moment on a snowmobile.
That's a hard one. There were so many challenging moments in Idaho where you just go like, oh my gosh, I have this, this $10,000 sled that is skidoos that we got loaned to us, and I'm going to have to make this maneuver, and this maneuver to make it up. And after a while you get on a snowmobile, it does kind of become like walking, but it's still very dangerous. It's still, there are times where you don't know what's under the snow. I would say there were many. It was just like getting to a point where it was challenging. Like, I love Alaska. Snowmobiling in Alaska is challenging, but Idaho,
I think it's more challenging because there's trees everywhere and little ravines, ditches, gullies.
You're constantly having to pin it out of these ravines and side hill up something to make it up into like tight trees, and then you're going to have to slalom them uphill, and it's so much more concerning than sitting in the wide open of Alaska.
I would say so, man. I definitely get more gripped in the trees than I do at least in like the open terrain of Alaska.
I will say that one of the coolest things I ever saw, I was sitting on Brobo looking over towards one of the ascents, and it was like over towards like Gully 2 or something, and no one had been able to make it up that because it had snowed like 2 feet. And I look over, and there's this one guy, and he's down at the bottom, and he goes up about 100 feet, and he rips a left-hand turn, and then he uses that momentum on the downside to then shoot himself back up the other side, or back up higher, went up another 100 feet, went to the right. And he basically did a bow tie across the whole thing until he had a track all the way to the top.
Was that Donnie Mills?
I have no idea. And then he rode down his track, and then he was able to go back up. And I think that, like, looking at that, I was just like, that is real snowmobiling.
Yeah, it's really fun, man. It's really fun to snowmobile. And then when you snowboard off your snowmobile, it's like one of the pinnacle experiences, I think, in snowboarding.
Okay, wait. I actually have one of my greatest moments.
Okay.
We were filming for Smith Optics, and we had this kind of like run that was up this like hillside, back behind the yurt. It was
the Vienna Mines area.
The Vienna Mines
I've
area.
done that run.
Yeah.
That's sick.
And
great tree run.
And one of the other filmers was like, yeah, we just pinned up there, we doubled up, and we're going to do night laps down it. And I had this like, I had a really old snowmobile, which was like a Yamaha 600, like Mountain Max. Yeah. Yamaha Mountain Max 600. And he's like, yeah, just follow me. So he's doubling with this other guy, and I'm on this Mountain Max. Now, I'm like not a light kid, I'm like 240, on this Mountain Max at the time. And I pin it, start going up, and it's like, it's still powder, I'm like, there's not really a great track in, but I'd done so many hill climbs on
Mountain Max, like 600 with like a 131 track.
Yeah,
or something.
131 track, and like, like paddles that are like, if that, they've, been worn down. But I was confident in this thing. I could ride it in the powder, and I'd taken it up some stuff, but nothing just like an ascent like that. And it's about like 800 or 900 vertical. And I'm like, at night. And here I am like realizing how much trouble I'm in about like 100 feet from the top, like going like 1 mile an hour, stomping on the thing, just trying to get it to catch something.
Traction, yeah.
Just going like, if I go left, I'm going down this whole face into trees,
Ooh, okay, what happened?
I somehow caught some chunks underneath and was able to like get it all the way to the top. And when I got to the top, I remember just seeing, gosh, it was probably like Wyatt or Yancey and someone else, and just being like, they were like, yeah, you made it,
Yeah, exaltation, right?
Being like, I can't believe I just did that. I can't believe I did. So I'd say that moment was pretty
well,
good.
You know, this has been our snowmobile talk. Really,
Right.
we're a snowboard podcast, but we do love snowmobiling as well, and it's a great way to access terrain.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Beav here. If you're enjoying what you're listening to, please consider donating at patreon.com/the Snowboard Project. You too can help us create an independent voice in snowboard media. We're not sponsored by anyone except you. Patreon.com/the Snowboard Project.
What should we move on to next? Let's keep going, though. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Let's go number 41, Rumor Mill.
Rumor mill.
Yep.
We've never done this one.
No, we haven't.
Okay, there are a couple rumors floating around the snowboard industry now.
Do we talk about rumors, or do we talk about? Are we?
Okay. So anyhow, these are unsubstantiated rumors.
Take them with a grain of salt, but they might be true.
They might not be
Not be true.
Yeah, we don't know.
Call your representatives.
Yeah, but anyhow, it's not like we're going to lose advertisers over this.
Right.
So
Nope.
here's the rumor
Because
mill.
we don't have any advertisers.
No, we rely on our listeners to support the snowboard
Okay,
project.
what's going on?
Okay, so I heard that there's something going on with Homeschool. Homeschool, great clothing brand out of Oregon. They are getting ready for Homeschool Mach 2 or something.
Huh.
And I haven't seen what's going on, and they may have had financial difficulties maybe coming back. That's a rumor.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal
rumor
is,
that
but
it might
I
be.
love Homeschool clothing. I think as a snowboard clothing company, like snowboard specific clothing company, that's some boss stuff, you know?
Do you think it's hard for these companies, these not like the bigger companies, to survive on a yearly basis?
I think it's hard for all companies, but it might be even harder if you were homeschooled. I'm just kidding.
Wow.
No,
Wow.
I'm kidding. I think there's some great people who've been homeschooled, and anyhow.
Yeah. So, but it is a challenging time for I guess companies in terms of core companies or companies that are kind of grassroots
Well,
companies,
I
right?
think there's this transition happening. Like when the internet came about, people were like, cool or whatever. And so definitely like the magazines were affected by the rise of the internet. Well, also the retailers are affected. And so that's just
Right.
changed the distribution model for a lot of brands. I mean, like 15 years ago, Burton didn't have a single factory showroom in New York City or anywhere else in the country. And now they have like all these like Burton dedicated stores.
Sure.
It's because the nature of the retail environment in snowboarding has changed, right? And so now you have the rise of like your backcountries, your Evos, your houses or whatever. And so that's put a lot of pressure on these brick and mortar retailers, but they still offer like a great, you know, personalized experience and also are the home of culture locally. We talked about that last week.
We did. What else is kind of, there's another
Okay,
kind of
so
rumor as well.
I got a couple more rumors I've heard. Okay, this is a messed up one.
Okay.
I heard that Alaska Snowboard Guides, ASG. Yeah, they this is a rumor, but apparently like I've heard that they didn't pay their heli bill for last year, like $200,000 to Saloy helicopters. So we'll see. I don't know if this is true.
How do you get away with not paying your heli bill? I mean, wouldn't they just take the heli away and fly it away?
You would think, but anyhow, supposedly they owe like $200,000. We'll see if like there's like a Saloy sticker on the helicopters next year at ASG.
What are the implications to something like that? I mean, do you just get blackballed by the helicopter industry?
I think basically you blackball one heli renter at a time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what happened with Dean.
But
anyway.
Saloy wouldn't like call Evergreen and be like,
I
hey,
think
by the
we'll
way.
have to see what happens next year with ASG. I don't know. We'll have to. I'm not in the heli business. I think that that's like an ego-driven business, and so I'm not interested in that.
Do you think if they go the way of like a few of the other operators, then anybody will step up to take their place?
I don't know. I mean, there's the Rendezvous right now. It's a really ethical place that's been really well run. There's also Black Ops. So there are a couple of options there that I think are actually really good quality operators.
Right.
You know, I'm less than so on ASG. I think it's too ego driven personally, but that's just a personal opinion. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, the heli business is really, I'd say you're more likely to get sued than to make money.
Yeah.
That's just my
question
opinion.
for you. When you were helling up in Alaska, did you ever get the Spine of Happiness?
I did actually.
You did?
Killed it.
Did you film it?
I did film it. Have you filmed it? Have you been on the Spine of Happiness?
Only on my big feet.
Oh, only on your big feet.
Yeah.
How was that? First descent, big fit? Does
First
that count
descent.
as a first descent when you do
There
like
were a few
run?
that year. There was one guy on a mono ski,
You ever done medium?
but unfortunately,
who was the mono skier who
but
did
he
the
forgot
first
to.
descent?
It doesn't matter because he turned off his GoPro.
Right, it doesn't even
He
count.
got out of the heli and he turned his GoPro off.
Oh, so he filmed
So it
his
doesn't
heli
count.
ride and then turned it off, like getting out. Oh,
Came
oops.
in all stoked on it, and he was like, "Check
Yeah.
out my Spine of Happiness. Let's download
But
the
he was
footage."
on a mono
And
ski,
it was
so
like
that's
him
like
get-
that. What else would you expect from a mono skier?
Right. He got out of the helicopter and then he turned it off.
Instead of turning it on.
He'd already had it on.
Oh man,
Oh, it was so.
that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But that's what mono skiers do. I guess.
No, I've never hit the Spine of Happiness.
Okay,
So-
it's actually an amazing run. That would be like through the Rendezvous Lodge. Rendezvous is
Right.
a good one.
Yep.
Right. So I recommend them highly.
Anyway, let's move on. Oh no, there was another rumor.
There is one more
Yeah, yeah.
rumor, and so this is interesting because I was a Sims team rider back in the day, and so I heard that Mark Vitelli left Sims. Now I don't know if this is true. This is strictly rumor. I heard two things: that they're not going to be made at Never Summer, and that Mark Vitelli left. So I don't know what's happening there, if that's even true or not. And if it's not true, I apologize because I do love the new Sims boards. I think they have,
Right.
I really like the retro futuristic feel of the new Sims boards. And so I hope that rumor's not true.
What's Mark Vitelli's role? I've heard
He's
the
been
name.
involved with Sims for years, and so
Okay.
he's the guy who kind of helped bring back the brand, basically. Like when
Gotcha.
Sims got reintroduced, I don't know, 1 or 2 years ago.
Is he CEO currently?
I don't know what his title is. Dude.
He's the dude.
Shredder dude.
The dude. So he left, and
Maybe he left.
Maybe he left.
That's what I
Right.
told that at like 1 a.m. the other night. So
Wow.
yeah, I'm always doing research on these Real Talk episodes to see what I can dig up out of the dirt.
No, there's not a ton this week.
No, but we just talked some rumor mill anyway.
We did talk some rumor mill. Let's go into talking about
What do you want to talk about? Not a lot going on.
No,
Got
no,
movie
no. It's,
premieres going on. Got some new products showing up. You know, that's what happens this time of year.
Yeah, a new product is coming across. The Transworld Business episode came out, or excuse me, the Transworld Business.
Transworld Snowboarding Magazine, not business. They don't even have that magazine
Having a
anymore.
moment here.
They have a
Transworld's
Buyer's Guide.
Buyer's Guide came out.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So what are you looking at riding this year? Like, what are you thinking about your setup? Let's hear about your personal setup for this year, Beef.
Sure. Well, I'm broke, so I'm just gonna go back to that snowboard that's in the closet, And,
Okay.
And
I don't think you can actually go back in the closet. Once you're out, you're out.
I have this problem with really like enjoying a lot of the older gear that I have, like my old Ion boots. That's all I really want to roll
Really?
with. Yeah, like they're
Yeah.
just stiff in the right way.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for Solomon Synapse Wide. I've literally ridden because I have wide feet, so it's like the Synapse Wide has been my boot. I'll buy like a new pair every 2 or 3 years, and like literally for maybe 15 years, I've always used the Synapse Wide. I'm not even interested in trying other boots.
Do you feel like it's a necessity every year to re-up your quiver and re-up certain things?
Well, with my boots, I just wait till they stink, and then I get a new pair. And I'll look on eBay. I'll look for new old stock. I don't think they really changed dramatically.
So you and I are in the same camp. We, once we find something that we like for our feet, we just stick with it. Until we can't roll it anymore.
How about bindings? What brand of bindings do you use? And we don't have any sponsors, by the way. So this is actually just like I'm curious.
My honest, I would say
honestly, which ones do you like?
98% of my snowboard career, I probably had Burton custom bindings. It's
Right.
just,
We have an interview coming up with Ryan Coulter. He made some awesome innovations on the Burton bindings, so that's a cool interview.
That's rad.
But
I
people
think-
love Burton bindings. I know that. I like the unions myself.
You do, yeah. And I think
I've tried
union
other bindings though. I'm the only reason I'm like kind of union focused because of Draplin, right? I had to have loyalty to Draplin. He's my buddy or whatever, and I like the bindings. They work good. So
Right.
But I've tried other bindings.
Well, I think the one thing is like, and I've tried a bunch of bindings too, but the two things that really connect you to that, like I find snowboards, I can ride just about any snowboard and feel good on it, right?
Yep.
But if the boots don't feel right, or if the bindings don't feel correct, then what's the point of it?
Right.
Because it's the point of contact between you and the board,
Yep.
And I think that's important. So sometimes you're like, man, I'm sticking with these boots that I don't have to break in, that are perfect for me right now, even though they smell terrible, even though they've had so many years.
I have used terrible smelling boots, I'll admit.
Right.
Oh, I've also used Now bindings. Those are good bindings too. By
Now
the way.
bindings?
Yeah, I've used those. I bought a pair from Blue and Gold actually in Alaska because I was like, my ratchets had shredded on my Union bindings. I needed a pair, and so they had the new Now bindings, so I got to try those out. Those are good bindings too.
Now there are a whole bunch of snowboard companies. You were telling me.
Yeah, I mean, what the boards that I like tend to gravitate towards are from like what so like when it comes to beer,
Yeah.
I have no problem with like Budweiser, Miller High Life, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But when it comes to boards, I kind of lean towards the craft genre, the Craftsman, the crafts, the smaller kind of niche brands.
I can tell.
You can tell what.
You gravitate towards the craft side
why?
of things.
What
Well,
tells you that about
I
me?
think you're always like, hey, I'm going to go and visit Smoke and Jay at his shop and watch him, and you are
You get more
interested in the
hand-
process. I know that you've been to the Unity board shop and built a board.
Yeah.
You built one with Never Summer. You've built all these different boards over the years, and you've been interested in the process of how that all works.
I do, and I'm passionate about it. And so, like for years, I rode Unity snowboards. I just liked the way that like Unity Pete was Pete Worcester.
Sure.
I don't know what he's doing right now, but anyhow, like Pete, he like did it from start to finish. He just built a bitchin' board. I love those boards. But I'll try any board because I think that like if you have an open mind, like every board has its design purpose, and if you can like apply yourself to that design purpose, you can enjoy almost any snowboard, right? And so there's a bunch of there's brands that you can count on for making great boards like LibTech. Like I'd say even Burton boards, I'd say those are like good quality boards. Never Summer for sure.
Sure.
Right? They make a good quality snowboard. But there's also like a bunch of like these smaller brands, kind of niche brands.
Sure.
You got your they'll make a smaller production run. They won't make as many boards. You got your, like I don't know, Unity for one.
Right.
But like Winter Stick, that's Seth Westcott's brand, just pouring his passion into that.
Wait, Seth Westcott owns Winter Stick,
He does. He
way.
bought it. He just wanted to keep the heritage alive.
Okay.
And that's out of Maine. There's another brand out of Maine, Why Me Snowboards.
Right.
There's like United Shapes. I love those boards, the United Shapes boards. I've ridden one of those. Awesome. So there's like a bunch of these like smaller brands as well. Snow Planks out of Bend, Oregon. That's a great one. I know Pat A rides those and loves them.
Sure.
And you just get maybe like something a little bit different than like a mainstream board, or I don't know. I like craft snowboards.
To play like devil's advocate, you have craft snowboards. Would you, is there the argument that says like, well, Burton has all this technology, even though they manufacture over in wherever, is that board?
Where's wherever?
I mean, I'm guessing that they're not manufactured in Vermont.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
See, so could the argument be like, well, they have all this technology, they've kind of refined it, and this is going to be, whether it's made in China or Taiwan or wherever it's made, is it going to be better than the craft guy that does a 300 board run every year?
That's hard to say. I mean, I think that once you get the design process down or building process down, you can really replicate that pretty easily. But I don't think that necessarily, like now with the advances in glue and building boards and also like the internet, right? Just spreading the knowledge of board building to people. I think you could build a board in your garage that rides just as well. Will it be as durable as a board that's made in a factory? I'm not sure. It may not be. It could actually be more durable because they like take the time to really meticulously build that board. There's a guy in Jackson, Mikey Franco, builds Franco boards, and like those boards are amazing. The most beautiful boards probably made today, right? They're also a couple grand each. But
Right. Right.
So the thing is, there's also different flavors, and so there's like in the beer analogy again. It's like there's stout, there's IPA, there's lager, there's pilsner. There's all different flavors of a beer. There's all different flavors of boards.
Sure.
We actually made a board. This is Flight Week this week.
That was what I was going to ask
Oh,
you about.
okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
No. See, I was
Jumped the
like
gun.
running you into this.
Okay,
so that I could ask
sorry.
you.
Let me just back off here.
Oh, hey, so Sullivan, you built a board this week. Yeah. Tell me about that process and kind of, you've done this before, obviously, with some people with specs, or have you not?
No, you know what? I've never actually like fully spec'd out a board from like designing the core, the base material, like from A to Z, and having the menu of options that I've had like at my disposal. I've built boards in factories. Like I've actually like physically like squeegeed the epoxy on the fiberglass and you know, done the whole process of building boards with my own two hands and ridden those boards, and that's a really gratifying thing. But now this week is flight week, and so I actually designed a board. You know, it's kind of designed for like riding in Alaska, but the thing is, it's like I'm actually going to use this as my daily driver at the resort too, because I think this because it'll perform at high speed, be stable, and also slash. It's like those are the same characteristics I actually want across the mountain.
Sure.
So yeah, this is my first time doing like an actual like A to Z design and build, and then so that's in Flight Week. So like I work with Eric Luthart at GP87, a great factory that's in China, but they're engineers here in America. It's actually the factory's owned by a couple of Americans who are based in China.
Gotcha.
But they're known for like super high quality boards, right? And so that's why it's like this board that I designed. It's like I'm not going to design the board just because it's cheap. I'm going to design the absolute best board that I can, the most high performance board I think on the planet. And so yeah, that's what I'm hoping to have in my hands here pretty soon. So yeah, I worked with GP87, and then after designing the board,
wait, really quickly. So after kind of like I guess without spoiling anything, tell me what was the biggest thing that you learned through this process of actually like designing this snowboard?
Oh, I learned a lot. Like when we get to the episode where Eric Luthart and I talk about the specs, I learned about side cut and the interaction between dampening and weight and flex and dampening, and how like those interrelate. And there's a lot of different variables, right? And honestly, it's like I think Smoke and Jay calls it the recipe, right?
Sure.
Well, there's like, I mean, imagine like going into a grocery store. There's thousands of spices. There's like you can have chicken or beef or whatever. So there's all these different ingredients, and so basically, though, I was able to put together what I think are the ultimate, ingredients. And granted, pizza's my favorite food, so this is going to be a great pizza, I think, to use another analogy.
Okay, so and then you basically spec'd out this board, you figured it out, and then what was the next step?
So then I was like, okay, it needs graphics. I need to figure out how to pay for the molds, because the molds cost a couple of grand to be able to design your own shape. And that's been the stumbling block in the past, has been like, I can't afford necessarily to do like custom molds. But this board is actually going to be totally custom molds, everything. And so basically then I came up with the idea of doing a tribute to Flight. I mean, while I was doing this interview, I came up with the idea of like, hey, we should have like the nose shape based on like the old Flight nose shape. Right. And that kind of sparked this little idea, like, why don't we just do a tribute to Flight? And that was the genesis of Flight Week.
So sick.
Yeah.
And the board is unbelievably cool. Like,
I hope it is. I hope we did like a design. It looks cool.
It might ride like absolute crap, but
no, I think it's actually going to ride like I think that like a lot of people are kind of like a 167. That's too long. I only ride 156, and it's like, no, you know what? Actually, okay. So here's the thing. It's like my daily driver is actually like 163 to 168 every single day. I don't ride anything less than a 163. Why? Because I like the edge hold, the stability at speed. So my daughter is like 90 pounds,
right?
14 years old, and she's like, Dad, I want to try your board, and I'm like, heck yeah, you could try my board. We'll see how you like it. So anyhow, she jumps on my 168 that I was riding that day, and she rips. I have to, of course, trade boards with her. So I'm at the top of the mountain riding like a 136 at the time.
No, it's bigger than that.
No, she's literally 136. I jump on.
14 years old, 136.
Maybe one. It's a girl. She's like 5 foot 1, 2. You know.
Let's try 145.
I don't. No. It's shorter than that, right? It was a Never Summer. 136, I believe.
Okay.
I want to say, but anyhow, it's like a 139, 136, whatever. Sure. But anyhow, I'm on this board, and like literally, it's like I could like, reach the tip and the tail by bending down. It's like so short. But I ride this board down, and no, it wasn't good at speed, and no, it wasn't stable. But she loved the 168 as a little kid, and so you know what? Like people who are like, oh, that board's too big for me. It's like, have you ever tried a big board? Have you ever tried stability at speed? Have you ever tried the edge hold of a bigger board? I think you might like it more. Mikkel Bang, Andreas Wigg, they ride like 170s. It's just the popularity of 150 boards is what makes them kind of like the standard size.
Andreas Wigg's like 7 feet tall.
What's that?
Andreas Wigg's like 7 feet
No,
tall.
he's like 6'2". He's like a little taller than me.
Pretty tall,
But
dude.
but he's also done like a double cork 1080 on 170.
Totally.
So it's like it's not like it's like the swing weight has messed up his rotation. Now, granted, if you're only jibbing or whatever, I can see riding like a 156 or something. But for me, I won't even try something less than a 163. It's like don't bother giving me your 155. I'm not interested. That's just my opinion. That's just like my experience and what I've found over the years. For me personally.
All right.
I don't expect other people to agree because it's like finding like a board over 160 is actually kind of hard.
Right.
So, but that, you know what? I have my taste. I know what I like.
I think, yeah, we've seen Donnie Mills makes 180s, right?
I have a couple of those.
Yeah.
I have boards of all different lengths, you know? I mean, and the thing is, when I started snowboarding, and probably maybe the reason I stuck with long boards is because basically, like, you know, your boards back in the late 80s, early 90s, I mean, a 165 was like a typical shape until, you know, the Joyride Eldorado came out and like people started cutting down their boards and like, you know, eliminating all that tip and tail. But I always liked the stability, the edge grip at speed. You know, there's a lot of arguments for a longer board.
Gotcha.
So there you go.
Hey, what's up, Roger?
Nothing much.
Roger Sullivan. Mark Sullivan, 30 years earlier. Right?
Yeah.
What's going on? You loving snowboarding?
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah? What's the best thing about snowboarding?
Just like, it's a good experience and it's really good to do with friends and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's why we all got into snowboarding, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. So what is the feeling you get when you're getting up in the morning and you're going to go snowboarding?
I get really excited. Sometimes I'm not too excited though, because sometimes a little tired, but
Yeah.
it's always really fun in the end.
Does Mark pull you out of bed and go like, Roger, it's time to go snowboarding?
Yeah.
He does, huh? Because he's all stoked on snowboarding.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, how much does Mark love snowboarding?
He loves it like a lot.
Like a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What's it like being his son? Is it hard? Do you have to compete with the snowboard sometimes?
Yeah, it can be kind of hard to keep up because he is pretty dang fast, but
Right.
yeah.
Right. So you guys race sometimes?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So have you donated to our Patreon?
No.
Why the heck not, Raj? Don't you have a job?
I guess I do have a job.
Yeah. What's your job?
I'm the mail guy for the snowboard project.
Wait, you're our mail guy?
Yeah.
Oh, well, at least you didn't get intern position because you'd be making me coffee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that job sucks. Anyway, so you haven't chipped down a couple bucks?
Not yet, but I'm gonna.
Where do you
Get
go?
some.
Where do we go to do that?
We go to patreon.com/the snowboard project.
Yeah. Thank you, Roger. If you didn't get that, patreon.com/the snowboard project. This is the voice of Mark Sullivan 30 years ago. Yeah, that's what he'd sound like. Well, should we go into one of our last segments that we really enjoy?
What's that? Shaun White.
Shaun
This week.
White.
Okay,
This
what's
week in
happening?
Shaun White.
What's happening this week
I
in
have
Shaun
no
White?
idea. I'm just.
I
gonna
don't
click.
either. I'm going to look it up too.
There's a pink circle around his picture, and I'm going to go through it. Okay.
You know, I've been, and honestly, it's like people think we're giving Shaun White a hard time, and it's like,
Right.
no, I actually have a lot of respect for Shaun White, but if there's any snowboarder that the world wants to know
on the other hand,
about,
just want to know how just ridiculous his life is outside of snowboarding. It looks like his Shaun White gets corked. Hashtag corked is on his thing. It has a picture of him, and it's like everybody is there with their medals, like it's behind a case, and his picture seemed to have like fallen off, and it's like hanging, dangling.
okay, not
sideways.
cool, not cool.
Not cool. They should have
straighten that out, right?
Straighten
That
that
what
out.
it says, yeah.
But he said at Shaun White gets corked. That's kind of funny. Let's see if he has.
Oh, check this out. There's a
wait,
cool
wait,
photo.
wait.
I'm looking at it too. Look, he's shaking.
I don't know what that was.
He was saying goodbye. Who's he saying goodbye to?
Some girl.
Never say goodbye, Shaun.
Well, listen.
Hey, what's everybody? Caught me skateboarding down the street. Cool, that happened.
Yeah.
Bye.
You know what?
Some
Like
girl-
Shaun must get mobbed everywhere he goes.
Right.
You know, it must not actually be easy being Shaun White.
Nah.
But here he's like shaking Ayuma Hirano's hand right here, like at the bottom of the half pipe, and I know Hirano was not really happy that he lost to Shaun White.
Right.
And Shaun, though, look at him, a gracious champion as well.
Right.
You know, but yeah, I'd say that was the best half pipe contest ever. Anyway.
Right.
And we're looking forward to seeing if Shaun comes back this year. If Hirano is on top of the game, we'll see what happens. You know,
Is it in question whether he's coming back or not? As far as
I
like,
don't know,
snowboarding goes?
because I think that, you know, Shaun was probably expecting to have an easier time with the skateboarding, and it's like, this is no joke.
Right.
The whole like skateboarding in the Olympics, people are actually ramping up, taking it seriously. They realize that like
But Shaun's
on
got,
the line are
Shaun's
like,
got 2 years. I mean,
yeah, he does have some time, and honestly, his focus, his determination, I would put that above almost any skater who's just used to showing up at the skate park and doing some laps, right? He like has this like training regimen. He can apply maybe like the the regime of like learning new tricks and whatever from snowboarding to skateboarding. Who knows what's going to happen?
let me
right?
throw something crazy out there.
Okay.
What if Shaun comes back, but he decides not to be a competitive snowboarder and he goes the video route?
I would actually back that. You know, honestly,
Because-
I think that Shaun almost owes it to snowboarding to be involved for the rest of his life.
I think Shaun owes it to Shaun to actually enjoy snowboarding outside of competition.
Yeah, can you imagine? Like he was in that movie First Descent years ago.
I do remember that.
Yeah, and so it's like maybe Shaun will like turn over a new leaf and then start enjoying powder and like riding powder a lot and just like going out with friends and like
Right.
and just loving the sport for that and not just getting the satisfaction of snowboarding from winning events.
That would be interesting to see.
I'd like to see that. I think Shaun deserves it, actually. He's
I
put
think he
out
does
so
deserve
much
it,
of
too.
himself into snowboarding. I'd love to see that.
You know, as much as we love to hate on Shaun, I think we should probably hope that that's the case for Shaun.
Yeah.
For Shaun's sake.
I want to
you
go
know?
ride POW with Shaun.
But then again, I also want to go fly in a G4 to Spain with Shaun too. You know?
Word up.
Word.
Okay.
Let's go into trivia.
Okay, let's go.
Let's go
Trivia.
into
Okay,
trivia.
we're
Let's go
gonna-
to last week's trivia.
Okay, let's do last week's trivia.
Okay. First question was name one of Burton's original pro freestyle team.
Okay, so I'd say that there are probably 4 guys that I would count on like that original team.
Okay.
And that would be Craig Kelly,
Yep.
Jeff Brushy,
Okay.
Keith Duckboy Wallace. He's a quacker from northern Idaho. Yep. And then
Duck Boy.
yeah. Keith Duckboy Wallace.
I feel like if we hung out, it would be like Duck Boy and the Beeve.
That would be pretty cool. Maybe I should like step out of like this role and put Duckboy in for
That's
me.
hilarious.
Okay, and then Mike Jacoby, the Joker.
Okay.
I'd say that was the original Burton like freestyle team. You know, I would say that Brushy and Craig kind of live in infamy, but
Right.
really like the Duck Boy and Mike the Joker Jacoby, Duck Boy and Joker.
How much
Right.
longer down the line did Terrier come into that scene?
Oh, that was years.
Years.
Like 3
Years.
3 years, maybe
3 years.
2 or 3 years, yeah, at least.
Not terribly long, but
Not terribly long, but like Terrier came on to Burton as like a 14-year-old
Right,
and then like
right.
grew up from there. He was probably like, when Chill came out, he was probably like 13, 14 years old.
no way.
Yeah.
Kind of
so-
in the same I guess way that Shaun did. I think his first part was what, Simple Pleasures and Mac Dog or something.
Yeah, and so basically like Terrier came into the scene and then started traveling with Brushy and always looked up to
Right.
Brushy and Craig, but like really like Brushy and him ran together. That's how I met Terrier for the first time when they were living in Whistler together.
Gotcha.
We all lived in Whistler for the summertime, and so Terrier was rooming with Brushy, and I was friends with Brushy.
Why'd you all live in? Oh, because there's a glacier up there.
There's a glacier on Blackcomb. We
having a
rode
moment.
Blackcomb every day, tried to shred
Right.
the pipe. You know, so anyhow. So what's the next question?
First snowboard mag ever published.
Okay, so I guess the real answer would be Snowboarder Mag. It was made by a guy named Matt George in like 83. Not related to the modern Snowboarder Mag. It was like a one-off, one copy. You know, it had ads from, I think, like A-Team snowboards in it, and that was like the inside front cover. There was like, it's pretty interesting. I think Burton might have had an ad in it at that time. Flight had an ad.
Where was he published out of?
SoCal somewhere.
SoCal
Like he was
somewhere.
a surfer. He's still a surfer, like Matt George.
Right.
And Sam George was the editor-in-chief of Surfer Magazine when I was the editor-in-chief of Snowboarder Magazine.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, brother of Sam George, Matt George, and he made the very first magazine. You could also, though, and the one that most people give credit to is actually Tom Shea, a guy from San Francisco, made a magazine called International Snowboard Magazine. ISM, and the first copy was absolutely radical. So I would accept both of those answers. I actually have copies of each of those mags because I'm like a magazine person and a collector, and so I have copies of both Snowboarder and Absolutely Radical.
Is it kind of crazy that like a lot of those publications ended up in California or Southern California when it doesn't seem...
Yeah, it always seemed a little odd to me that the industry was based in Southern California. I actually left Southern California. It's crazy. I was the editor-in-chief of Snowboarder magazine, and I was like, I want to be a snowboarder. I have to leave.
Right.
I literally love snowboarding actually more than making magazines and having a great job. Right. So I moved up here to work in the industry. Right. Yeah, that's how I ended up in Ketchum. Right. So yeah, okay. Next question. Enough about me. I don't like talking about me too much.
Who is the defending world champion of mogul snowboarding?
Ooh, who do you think it is? Do you know?
Man,
I mean, I know you're a big fan of moguls. I see you riding them all the time.
I would say a really unknown name, Dave Geis.
Unknown for good reasons.
Just kidding.
No, it's Andy Hetzel. Andy Hetzel is the defending world mogul champion. So they used to have this ISF tour before the FIS kind of took over the competition side of snowboarding. There was the ISF, and so that was the International Snowboard Federation, right? Not to be confused with the Fédération Internationale du Ski, right? That runs it now. But like the ISF had one of the disciplines they actually had downhill, and that would have been an event. I would still actually love to compete in downhill snowboarding.
That'd be so fun.
Yeah, speed suits, the whole deal. I would actually do that. That would be fun for me.
Could we bring back some events like that? Like, I think we can forego moguls. Like, I'm fine with that.
Get rid of the moguls. I want downhill. I'll do a downhill. Like, show me a downhill race. I'll do it.
Right.
They actually have one here at Sun Valley, I think. Like the springtime, there's like an open to the public downhill.
I think it's all skiing though.
I think they have a snowboard division. I don't know. But hey, if you want to have a downhill, give me a call. Write me at mark@thesnowboardproject.com. I'll come and race downhill. I don't have a speed suit, but I do know the potato goes in the front.
That would be it would actually be so fun to just like start a downhill series on snowboards.
It would be pretty cool. But anyhow, 1989, Andy Hetzel is the defending world mogul ISF champion.
All right, let's move on to our this week's trivia. First question is, and this is one in first.
We're gonna make it a special category. Yeah, so in honor of Trish Burns, our first women's interview. I thought it was a great interview.
Yeah.
That came out last Friday. So in honor of Trish, we're gonna do.
We're gonna do trivia based on
women's snowboarding
and women's firsts.
Yeah.
So who?
Us too.
Because it's the first women's trivia.
Yeah. No. I'm just saying that we're like showing our support of women's snowboarding.
Absolutely.
You know, I love women's snowboarding. I have a lot of respect for it.
So Sullivan, first question: who had the first women's pro model?
Okay, that is a good question.
Good question.
I think I know the answer to that, but we'll have to wait till next week to find out.
Yes, we discussed this.
Okay.
First woman's, and then question number 2, what was the first woman's snowboard clothing company?
Right, so before there was Roxy.
Right.
And actually a long time before there was Roxy, there was actually another brand. There were a couple of brands, actually. And we'll give you, you can come up with, there's 2 that we'll accept.
Sure.
We'll accept 2 answers.
They were kind of in the same kind of
same era, probably the same season, and I'm not sure who came to the starting line first or whatever, but basically they probably showed at the trade show the same year.
Right. And then who was the first woman CEO of the world's largest snowboard brand?
Is that a trick question?
No, it's not.
Okay, cool. I think that's a good question. So read that question again.
Who is the CEO of the world's largest snowboard brand? Or who was the first woman CEO? Excuse me.
Okay. I have an idea of the answer for that one.
That's a pretty easy one, right?
I think it's pretty easy.
Yeah, pretty easy. Pretty obvious.
Basically, you just go to women, or large,
where do you
largest snowboard brand, world's largest snowboard brand, right? So you don't have to follow the trail very far from there.
All right. Well, that's about it. We covered what? Snowmobiling. We covered
small board brands, board brands. Yeah. So we had, I think, in a downtime, right? There isn't a lot going down. There's movie premieres. You can go to iTunes. The new movies are coming out.
Right.
Go check out the new product in your brick and mortar retailers. Give that board a flex. Try on some boots. See if that jacket fits right. see how your steez will look for this upcoming season.
Yep. And be sure to go back and check out some of our episodes that we've done before this. If you're just tuning in, go check out, like last week we had Draplin, Trisha Burns. Week before that we had Dale Rayberg. We had Scotty Lego.
We're still doing our history giveaway.
Let's
talk about that real quick. Let's talk about that. So here's the deal. So if you share on Facebook one of our prior episodes, right? Or it could be this episode, actually, if you really enjoyed this one. Gotcha. But you share one of our episodes on Facebook, put a link to it so people can find it, like on iTunes or whatever, and then say why you like it. And so this week we're giving away a wall clock. Snowboarder Magazine wall clock. It was like one of the things we gave to advertisers when I was at Snowboarder Magazine. They gave me one of the wall clocks. And so we're going to give away a Snowboarder Magazine wall clock.
Please tell me it has some little dangly weights and some little doors that open up. It's like
a cuckoo clock?
Yeah, and then like the snowboarder comes walking out. Like, it's like ding, ding. You know, and he like goes across.
It's not. It basically just has like the original Snowboarder logo on it. It was just like a branded wall clock. But it was something we gave to our advertisers back in the day when I worked at Snowboarder. But I'm going to give that away because I have another wall clock now.
I think we need a cuckoo snowboard wall clock.
I want one.
That would be sick. If there's any clock makers out there.
I know. I got a place to put it too. Perfect place for a wall clock, just saying.
Yep. Okay. I'm hoping
it's thanks for tuning in. This has been Real Talk number 5. Real Talk. It's October 8th, 2018.
Yep. Be sure to go and rate us. Let us know what's going on. Tell your friends. And check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/The Snowboard Project, if you want to help us see these things keep going. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is Real Talk.
Real Talk.
Real Talk. Peace.
On behalf of Mark Sullivan and the Beeve, thanks for listening to the Snowboard Project. Remember, ride fast, take chances, dream big, and take action. And for God's sake, don't forget to support advertising-free snowboarding media at patreon.com. The Snowboard Project. The Snowboard Project. The Snowboard Project.